Hello.
Hey, Jaclyn.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you here.
I'm so excited.
And to our viewers, welcome to the third episode of TEDx Today.
Thanks everyone for joining.
So Jaclyn, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, it's great to meet you all. So I am a life coach, a motivational speaker, and an author. I started my business when I was a senior at Georgetown, and I have slowly found my way to the business I'm in now. When I first started, I focused a lot on health and wellness, and I started out of a passion. I started out of this idea that I knew I wanted to do more with my life. I worked a corporate internship, and while I really enjoyed it, I felt like I could have more of an impact on the world and really just do more. And so I felt like one tool and one way that I could do more was through a business. And it's really been such a fulfilling journey. I've now been running my business for 4 years. Primarily my day-to-day consists of coaching clients. When things were normal and COVID wasn't going on, I was traveling a lot to colleges and conferences to give motivational speeches. I'm really passionate about helping people believe that their dream life and their ideal vision for their life is possible for them, and then understanding how to actually create that using mindset tools, different strategies. And basically that's the gist. When I'm writing a book, a lot of my time is consumed by writing the book. So I've written 2 books now, but there's like seasons for that. So that's kind of me and what I do.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think it's really inspiring to see someone go after their dreams and become an entrepreneur. So do you think you could tell us some obstacles you faced when you were building your company?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm really passionate about sharing this because I think that people often believe that there shouldn't be obstacles. Like it should be easy. And if I'm failing, that's a sign that I should give up, or that's a sign that maybe this wasn't meant for me. And that's how I felt many times along the journey. I failed massively multiple times. My biggest failures when I first started was the first product I tried to create, which was this plate that encouraged healthy eating. I literally ordered $10,000 worth of inventory, and the only people who bought it were my friends and family. And it was a major devastation. And I was so overwhelmed. I felt like I was a failure, that I wasn't going to be able to be a successful entrepreneur. But something inside of me told me to keep going. And that's what my TEDx talk is about. It's about courage and that voice inside of you and how to get back up every time you fall. And instinctively, I got myself back up. It was hard. But what was even harder was like the later failures. So the first failure, it's challenging, but you're like, okay, I can do this. I just got to find another way. But then I failed like over and over and over again. So I had an app. That was my next idea. I was going to create an app for women in college to help them eat healthier, have a better relationship with food, have better body image, feel more confident. And so we actually built the whole app out. I raised money on Kickstarter. I hired developers, and that failed 3 times, like 3 different beta launches with people, users using the app and telling me, Jaclyn, it's crashing. It's not working. And so again, I'm like, I'm a failure. And I actually like abandoned the app idea after I saw, okay, this really isn't working. And that's something I've learned, that failure is teaching you a lesson or it's a redirection. So for me, a lot of my failures in the beginning were just redirections. I don't believe that I was meant to be a tech company CEO. While that's a wonderful role for people who have that skill set, my skill set is speaking, is sharing my energy with people. I love coaching clients. I love giving speeches. That's what I'm really innately good at. I think I was born with some sort of innate gift. And I think we all are born with different gifts. I think everyone has a wonderful gift inside of them that the world needs to hear and see. And so those failures were truly blessings because they allowed me to redirect my life and figure out what my gift was and start living it out and really helping people in the best way I could. So I just want to express that whatever journey you're on, it doesn't really matter if you want to start a business or you have other dreams or goals, you're going to fail along the way. And it's actually a good thing. And the only problem with failure is our mindset around what we're making failure mean about ourselves. It doesn't mean anything about you. It means you're learning. It means you're chasing your goals and dreams and you're getting redirected to where you're meant to be. So if you can just open up your mindset around failures, I think that makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, and I think that's advice that we should all take to heart, because I think those failures are just opportunities from us to learn from our mistakes. So, and you talked about that your calling was speaking. So, do you think you could tell us a little bit about what your experience was like speaking on so many different stages?
Yeah. So I want to go back to like when I first started speaking and how I figured this out, because I think it would be helpful if you're listening and you're kind of like, well, I'm trying to figure out my calling. I was failing at everything, like I said. And so I asked myself, well, what's working? And at the time, the way I started speaking was I was building my app and I wanted to get beta testers and I wanted these to be women in college. So I figured, why don't I go and speak at some colleges, share my story, and see if I can get some interest in this app. So that was kind of what I was doing. So I was speaking for free. I was going to different, mostly local to Philadelphia, where I'm from, or Washington, D.C., where I went to college, and going to different sororities and talking to them about my challenges with an eating disorder in college and why I was creating this app. And I realized at that time when I was reflecting that I was really good at that. Like I would show up and it wasn't perfect. So I also want to make this clear. It was good for not having experience, right? So my mom would often go with me and cheer me on, and she would tell me, Jaclyn, you said the word like and the word and about 100 times. I count it. You need to work on that, right? So it wasn't by any means perfect, but I had a presence. I had an energy that, I would just take over a room and capture it. And I had this like intuition where I would be able to like read the audience and feel what they needed and share from my heart what I thought they needed. And it would really resonate with people. They would come to me afterwards and tell me, hey, that one thing you said about getting a bad grade in that class made me feel so much better about myself and knowing that that's okay. Or, hey, that one thing you shared about your challenges with food and your body image, it made me feel like I wasn't alone. And so I knew that something inside of me, there was some kind of gift, but I also knew it needed to be developed. So like I said, I wasn't very much like a natural born in the sense of just being so good at it and not having to practice. And the reason I share that is because I want you to know, like, whatever you want to pursue, you're going to be a beginner no matter what. Even if it's your gift, you're going to be a beginner, and all beginners need practice. So I started speaking more and more and more. And when I became a little bit more experienced, I started charging for it. And I would charge a small amount of money just to, that's what I thought I deserved. And this is kind of a self-worth thing, I guess, too. Like, I didn't even know that I could get paid more for a speech. So I just kind of went in there and would deliver my speech. And eventually I started to get more and more demand and get booked on bigger stages. And what I want to explain is chasing your dreams is scary, no matter what. Like when I go on a stage and there are 1,000 people in the audience, my heart races. If I have eaten about 30 minutes before, I feel like I need to throw up. Like I still feel that way. But I go out there and I speak from my heart and I share a wonderful message that really resonates with people. And I feel amazing afterwards. So your dreams are worth it, even if you're nervous, even if you're scared. Speaking is really fun. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to be a public speaker someday, it's so fun. You get to travel to awesome places. I love traveling to like the most random place to, go to, or just wouldn't find myself there, and exploring and meeting so many people. But yeah, that's been my experience. It's really fun, and it is nerve-wracking still, but it's totally worth it.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing. I think a lot of us don't know our calling, but when you finally find it, it's just, you feel really great. So you also talk about how there's always never a perfect time to offer an opportunity. So can you elaborate a little bit on what that means and what that?
Yeah. So I think that whenever I talk to people, and I have the unique opportunity of getting to have a lot of deep conversations with people about their goals, because I work with so many clients or people, who want life coaching and want some guidance, will get on a call with me and we'll chat. And a lot of times people will say, well, I'm just not ready, or it's not the right time. And they have all these excuses. Like maybe you're, in school and you're like, well, the right time is during the summer because I have more time available, or the right time is, once I'm a senior or once I graduate, or all these ideas coming up. But the truth is, you're never going to feel ready. And the way that I learned this is I looked back on my life and I asked myself, did I ever feel ready for anything that pushed me out of my comfort zone? No, right? Like a lot of you listening maybe are going to college and it's like, oh my gosh, going to college is like so scary. I did not feel ready. I did not want to leave high school, but I did it anyway. And it was an amazing experience. When I studied abroad while I was in college, I went to Italy for 4 months. It was really scary to leave my comfort zone, to leave my family and not know anyone and go to a country where I couldn't speak that language. And I didn't feel ready, but I did it anyway. And what I learned when I started my business is that your dreams, if they're big enough, they're going to take a long time to achieve. And that's not to be negative. That's just for you to have a picture of the timeline. Like if your dream is really, really big, you're not going to be able to get there overnight. Like I said, you'll probably start as a beginner. So I want to write a New York Times bestselling book. It's going to take me years to write more and more books before I'm able to do that. And that's okay. And so what I learned is that the sooner you start on your dreams, the sooner you'll get to the destination. And while it's really about the journey, not the destination, and you'll fall in love with the journey as you go, the reason you start is because you really want to get to that destination. So if you care that much about it, if you have this vision in your mind, maybe you want to be a doctor, maybe you want to write a book, maybe you want to start a nonprofit, whatever it is that's in your heart, the sooner you start, the sooner you'll get there, or at least be able to start making impact and start doing the thing that you love. So maybe you won't be able to, you can't graduate school any faster, right? But you can be learning and doing a residency or seeing patients, or maybe you won't be able to write the book any faster. It's still going to take time, but you'll get to spend time writing every day, which you love to write. So just starting gets you closer to where you want to be. And people put off starting, and so then they put off their dream life. And when you keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, you start to get comfortable and you start to say, well, maybe that's not for me, or well, maybe I don't deserve that, or maybe I'm not good enough for that thing. But you're capable of anything that you desire. You're capable of any dream or goal that's in your heart. And so you might as well just start now when you're not ready, because you'll probably never feel ready.
Yeah. And when like people who are having trouble, they know what they want to do, but they don't know where to start, what would be your recommendation? Like, where would you start?
Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes is Marie Forleo. It's clarity comes from action, not thought. So I used to spend so much time trying to think about, what do I want for my life? What's my 5-year plan? What's my 10-year plan? And I would get so confused and caught up in my head, and I would feel paralyzed and I wouldn't take any action, and it got me nowhere. And then when I just started taking action, even if I didn't know what I wanted, I started to figure it out. So I would say, okay, well, I have no idea what I want, but what could I do? And I would just start with whatever I thought of. That's how I started with my plate idea. That was my first thing in business. I'm going to create this plate because I think it could help people. It wasn't like this big, massive vision. It was just like, this is where I'm going to start because this is all I can think of. So if you can think of any action, take that action. And then what happens is you learn about what you like doing and what you don't like doing. You learn about what you're good at and what you're not good at, and you figure it out through the action. You continue to refine every single day. I take action and I learn and I make changes in my life, in my business, from the smallest things to the biggest things. And so just by taking the first action step, even if you're really unsure what action step that is, just take some action. Just start. Whatever you can think of is perfect. You are meant to have that idea and that inspiration as the first step.
Yeah, and I think if we all take that first step, that could open a lot more doors for us and our opportunities. So I also know you've written 2 amazing books, Stop Getting in Your Own Way and The Cuss Method. So do you think you could tell us a little bit about them and what inspired you to write them?
Sure. So The Cuss Method is my first book, and I was inspired to write it after my struggle with an eating disorder in college, specifically binge eating, and struggles with my body image. And I interviewed food researchers and psychologists to understand why I struggled with the things I did and how I could help more college students have a healthier relationship with food. And it was really fun to write. I had an amazing professor from Georgetown who guided me along the way. And that came out in 2017. And then I wrote my second book, Stop Getting in Your Own Way. Once I had kind of started to figure out this path that I was really passionate about, with just trying to help people live their best life, I wrote Stop Getting in Your Way specifically for entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, because I felt like as a business owner, I struggled so much with a lot of the concepts of limiting beliefs and bad habits. And so I thought it could especially help them. But I've gotten great feedback from lots of people who aren't business owners who've read my book that it's really helpful for anyone because it just covers like how to change your mindset and how to change your habits and the way you take action towards your goals. So yeah, both books really fun to write. I'm really grateful for the experience of writing a book. It's definitely incredibly challenging, but very worthwhile to be able to hold your book in your hand once you finish writing it, and better yet, get the reviews of people who it's impacted their life positively. That's like the best part.
Yeah, and you said that writing a book was challenging. So could you go through maybe the process of writing one of them and what obstacles you faced?
Yeah. So you start with an outline, right? Like here's the concept and here are kind of the chapters. But what I found is that like that changed so much. Like I thought like it's going to just be this outline. I'm going to write it. It's going to be done. But it wasn't anything like that. As I start writing and get more ideas, I change my ideas. I get different inspiration. I think, oh, I should go this direction. And so a lot of it was like you write it one time and then you end up like rewriting, at least in my experience, the book again, because you're doing such major edits once you've kind of gotten your thoughts out of your brain. So I found myself like rewriting the book multiple times, which I think that's why it was most challenging, especially as a recovering perfectionist. I have a lot of tendencies to try to make it perfect, but it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be done. It just needs to come from my heart, because that's what will impact people. And so I think that was the biggest challenge, like finishing it, saying, you know, this is it, this is good, and sending it off. There's an editing process that you work with editors, so that's really helpful so that you don't have to be so concerned about like every grammatical mistake you could possibly be making. And then you go through the cover design process, which is really fun. You get to share your vision, and the designers come up with different ideas, and you go back and forth with them. So that was like probably the most fun part, I would say. And then you get the samples and the author copies, and I also pre-sold copies. So the pre-sale campaign was a fun marketing campaign to get people excited about the book, and a lot of people were like waiting for their copies to come, which was really fun. So yeah, the whole process is fun, but I would say the most challenging part is like once you write it, you feel like you need to rewrite it. And I'm glad I did that because it really did improve the content and take it to the next level. It's helpful just to get your thoughts out. And then it's like when you write an essay for school, like you edit it. So I think that's the hardest part, like going back. Like I've read my book so many times. By the time I turned it into the editors, I was like, I can't read this one more time. Like I've read through this chapter 1,000 times. Can someone just like, I never want to look at it again. But of course, now that time has gone by, I sometimes go through my book and even like read chapters.
Really? Oh, I think that's interesting because I mean, when I read a book, I've read it so many times and like, oh, I just don't want to read it anymore. But rereading it, maybe that can make us notice things you haven't before.
Yeah, I feel like as people who have a message to share, sometimes it's easier to explain it to other people than to actually follow it yourself. So sometimes I recognize a self-limiting behavior in my life and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm waiting until I'm ready. I need to read that chapter. And I will actually read my own words to coach myself, which is funny.
Yeah. And when you were writing those books, was there any specific message you had in mind that you were trying to get across to your readers?
Yeah, I would say the main message from the CUS method was to listen to your body and be kind to yourself and understand that a healthy relationship with food comes through not dieting or restricting yourself, but really understanding nutrition and understanding that your body will tell you. It's very intuitive and it will tell you what it wants and what it needs. So that was really my message with the CUS method. The book that is another good book, if you're interested in that, is called Intuitive Eating. And that's kind of where I learned a lot of that. And then with Stop Getting in Your Own Way, the message I wanted to get across to people is just take control of your life, and whatever your dreams and goals are, you have the power to pursue them. And here are some tools that can help you do that.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of people out there right now, they're trying to take a leap of faith or even don't know what they want to do. So what would be your advice to them?
Yeah, just start wherever you are and take the first step. I think one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was take baby steps. One small step at a time adds up to massive changes in your life. So you don't have to see the whole staircase. Just ask yourself, okay, what's the first step? And then what's the next step? And one step at a time, you'll figure it out as you go, as long as you're committed to that end goal that, hey, I'm going to keep working towards this no matter how long it takes.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And just in the world today, what's one change you would like to see?
Ooh, in the world today. I would like to see more people believing that their dreams are possible. I think so many people, they don't pursue a bigger life. They don't pursue more for their life because they in their heart feel like, well, that might be possible for Jaclyn or for some other person, but it's not possible for me. I would like more people to have innate belief in themselves that they're capable of anything. And if there's a desire in their heart, it was placed there for a reason, and they already have everything they need inside of them to pursue it.
Yeah, and there's one more concept that you talk about, and it's called controlling the how. So could you explain what you mean by it and where you got that concept from?
Yeah. So I am a big advocate of law of attraction and manifestation and a lot of the other universal laws that govern the way the world works. And essentially, one of the concepts in manifestation is that you are responsible for the what and the why. So the what might be, I want to start a business, and the why might be because I want to help people, or I want to start a business because I want to invest the profits back into my community. I want to give back and I want to do these different things that I'm passionate about. That's the what and the why. But the how is not your job. And so I'm going to explain this. I want you to everyone who's listening, think about a time in your life where something really awesome worked out for you. So for me, and stop getting in your own way, I use the example of my relationship with my fiance. So I think about when we met and all the synchronicities, all the kind of weird things that played out to bring us together. If I tried to plan them, I couldn't have. There was a higher power involved in kind of creating coincidences that were not coincidences. And so the same thing might be true, with a friendship or with an idea you have that it just kind of plays out. You meet the right person. You're all of a sudden, you're like, I want to write a book. And then you join this live and you meet me and you hear about how I wrote a book and you're like, oh my gosh, like these crazy things start to happen. And oftentimes we try to control the how. So we're like, okay, I want to achieve this goal. Here are the steps. And I'm all about taking action. It's a huge part of what I teach. But I teach take action and stay confident, but be open, right? Be open to different ways of achieving that goal that maybe you didn't expect, right? Maybe you didn't originally plan for them. So not controlling the how is really about having trust. Trust in whatever you believe in. It's not a religious thing. It's more of faith. So some people, have all kinds of beliefs, but that faith that you have that everything is working out for you, everything is happening in your favor. You are on the right path. If you have a failure, you're supposed to have that failure. And that's not your job. You're not in control of that. The only thing you're in control of is staying positive, your mindset, your self-belief, and continuing to take action. And I think that when we let go of the how and when we detach from that and we focus on the things we are in control of, the mindset and the action, then things start to work out for us faster than we imagined. And we're not so caught up in like, oh, this didn't work. Like, I need to fix it. I need to solve it, because those negative emotions often lead us to self-sabotage and giving up on our goals. So that's why letting go of the how and just focusing on what you can control and having that trust that everything is working out for you and you are on the right path and you are where you're meant to be is incredibly important.
Yeah, and how do you think this concept of controlling the how does it apply to like students today?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So as a student, you definitely try to control the how, right? It's like, I am going to get a 4.0. I'm going to get straight A's. I'm going to do all these things. But sometimes you can do all the studying and you can do your best. I know, because I've done this before, and you can still get a bad grade, right? You can give something your all and it's still not where it's meant to be. And that's okay. You probably need to learn a certain lesson from that. Maybe there's something you didn't quite pick up on that's going to help you later in life. And even better, for me, when I really learned this lesson was when I was applying to colleges. So I really wanted to go to Cornell. It was my first choice. I applied early decision and I was denied and I was devastated. I felt like, why is this happening to me? I was trying to control it, right? But then I applied to all these other colleges and I was accepted to Georgetown. And I ended up going there and absolutely loving it. And Georgetown is where I started my business. Georgetown is where I learned about entrepreneurship. Georgetown is where I met some of my best friends. But if I had tried to control the how and, somehow obsessed over not getting into Cornell, and I was so devastated by that I didn't even have the confidence to pick myself back up and apply to these other schools, I might have never gotten into Georgetown and had these experiences that I was meant to. So you can kind of see it play out in your life when things don't work out for you. Even if it's, I wanted to join this club, or I wanted to be the class president or the chair of this organization and I didn't get it. That's because something better is meant for you. I always tell myself it's this or something better. And so when something's not working out, whether it's a grade, an extracurricular, or something in your long-term path for college or your career, just know that something better is coming for you. Something that is meant for you is on its way, and really trusting that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice we should all keep in mind when we're going through college and even beyond that. So if you don't mind, I think our audience has asked some questions.
Yeah, that would be great.
What advice would you give to people who constantly plan ahead and who feel anxiety about the future?
I'm so glad you asked this. I was having the same conversation today with one of my clients on a coaching call, and she was saying how she gets really overwhelmed by her goals because they feel so big and she's trying to figure it all out. And I told her, can you just focus on the next step? And I actually, in my office, I have a whiteboard that says, just take the next step. And I write what the next step is. So I would encourage you to ask yourself, what's the next step? And choose to be aware of, sure, all of the things that are coming and the planning and all those things, but also choose to let them go, release them. Trust that you are capable of achieving all those things. You're capable of figuring it all out. You don't need to have every detail planned out. And instead, just focus on the next step, knowing that it's going to get you one step closer to where you want to be. If you can put the majority of your time, energy, and attention into the next step, you will feel much more relaxed and you will have a better energy, and that energy attracts. That's what law of attraction is. Your energy attracts more energy. So really focusing on the next step and keeping it easy. Break it down to a simple, small step. People are like, but that's not exciting for me. Well, one small step plus one more small step makes a big step, right? Every step adds up. If you want to write a book, one chapter, it doesn't feel like that much, but what happens when you write one chapter 10 times? It adds up. So I would encourage you to just focus on the next step and release that anxiety that's coming over all the future planning, knowing that as long as you take the right step, the next step, it doesn't have to be right. It just says the next step is right innately because you were inspired to take that step. That's all you need to do.
Yeah. And I think one more question is, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, I love that. I would tell my younger self that everything is going to work out. Stop stressing. Stop being mean to yourself and criticizing yourself. I would really focus on building my confidence at a younger age. And I would focus on self-love and knowing that I am exactly where I'm meant to be. Believing in myself, loving myself for who I am, not trying to change myself, and really honing in on the fact that everything's going to work out for you. Everything is happening in your favor. The hard times, something better is coming, and really believing that. So that faith and that belief, as well as my own self-belief, would be the two biggest things I would tell myself to focus on.
Yeah, that's great. So before you go, could you give us a small preview of your TEDx talk?
Yeah, I am so excited for my TEDx talk. So it's focused on building courage. And I believe that courage is a key ingredient to actually following your dreams, because courage is what allows you to get back up when you fall. Courage is what allows you to build that confidence. And so my TED Talk is based on this belief that people aren't meant to be fearless. And I think that's a misconception in the world. But instead, we're all going to have fear. Just like I said, when I get on the stage, my heart still races. I still feel like I need to throw up before I get up there, especially if I've eaten Chick-fil-A 10 minutes before, because I've done that before and it's not a good idea. So I still have the fear, and we're not meant to be fearless. But when we have courage, we have that because our belief is stronger than our fear. And so my TED Talk is all about that whole theory, and then also teaches you how to build your self-belief. So if you resonated with this, you'll definitely like my TED Talk, focusing on how to really build that belief.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining, Jaclyn. It was a real pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for everyone who joined live or who watches the replay. I really appreciate it. And I would love to connect with you all.
Yeah. And thanks again to all of our viewers. And we hope to see you next time. Bye.
Bye.